Good evening, good day, and welcome to More Yoga Connection Cafe. My name is Yvonne O'Garro. I am a restorative and hatha yoga teacher with More Yoga, and this series is called Yoga Journeys. Yoga Journeys started last summer when George Floyd was unfortunately killed, and I should just explain. Connection Cafe started at the start of lockdown for a way to connect as the studios were closed. And then when the unfortunate incident happened with George Floyd, I was asked to create a space, and this is what I came up with. And it was a way to amplify melanated voices, for a way for us to understand the journeys of many wonderful yogis. So the questions are the same, but the answers are beautifully different. And I have the honor and pleasure this evening of welcoming my dear friend and fellow trainee from 2 years ago, Sonali Sudarshi.
It's
Welcome,
lovely to meet
Sonali.
you, Yvonne.
Welcome, welcome.
Thank you.
How are you today?
I'm good. I'm good. I feel honoured to be here having a chat with you and seeing your beautiful face. It's
And
really
seeing your
lovely.
beautiful face, and I think one of your mentees has just joined. Welcome, Ethany. It's also nice, also connected. So, are you ready for the yoga journeys questions?
I'm ready. I'm
You're
ready as I
ready?
am.
Okay. So, before I jump into the questions, I'd like you to introduce yourself, because I think how I might introduce you and how you might introduce yourself might be two different things. So I think it's really nice for a yogi to introduce themselves as you would like. And also, I have to say thank you so much for being here this evening, because it is a beautiful hot evening in London where, you might have been sipping the cocktails by the river or something. So thank you for still being here on this hot summer's
Oh, thank you
day.
for inviting me. There's nothing I want to do more than chat with you. So it's lovely.
Amazing.
Um,
Okay, so 30-second lift pitch. Introduce yourself, please.
my name's Sonali. I'm a mum and a yoga teacher and a doctor, a GP. I live in Buckinghamshire, work in Hertfordshire, and I'm really interested in the connection between yoga and health.
Wonderful, wonderful. Yeah, I like that very much. Okay, so let's find out a bit more about this journey. I think I know some of it, but I don't know all of it. I don't know all of the journey, so this is wonderful for me. So, honoring our ancestors, please share your family lineage.
So I was born in India. My dad's family were farmers. My mum's family, they're still farmers actually, a lot of my dad's family. My mum's family, my granddad was actually a politician.
Wow.
But my first introduction to yoga came from my mum's mum. I call her
Oh,
Baiji. So I was brought up in kind of a traditional Jain culture.
mm.
Um, so, from the roots of yoga.
From
Like,
those for those watching that don't know what Jane is, please can you break it down for us?
um, well, Jainism, I guess, is a philosophy as much as a religion, and a lot of the early roots of yoga are thought to derive from the traditions of Jainism and Buddhism. And so I think I was introduced to it at an early age. So I came here when I was 5.
Mm-hmm.
So I lived with my mum and dad went off to Trinidad and Tobago for a couple of years to try and earn some money, and I lived with my grandparents.
Okay.
Um, and I don't remember masses of the time, but I remember my gran would used to, or my nanny, Baiji as I used to call her, she
Mm-hmm.
would wake up at 4 every morning before the whole kind of household was up, and she would spend an hour, maybe 2 hours meditating.
Wow.
And I would say to her, you know, what are you doing? And she said, I'm trying to reach moksha. So she was trying to become liberated, and
Wow.
I never really understood what it meant. She But she said, but I'll never reach it, Sonali, I'll never reach it. And I said, why, you know, why won't you reach it? And these conversations happened over time, you know, as I got older and I went back to India. And she said, I'm too violent. And I said, what do you mean? You know, she was my little Baiji. She was tiny. She ate with a huge appetite, but you know, she was vegetarian. She was very calm. She was very kind, and I couldn't understand how she could be violent. She said, I'm too violent in my thoughts.
Okay.
And you know, that concept of ahimsa that exists in Jainism, where and parts of yoga philosophy about not being violent towards anything, including yourself, or including the thoughts that you have, including people and animals. And I guess that's where my first sort of introduction to yoga happened, actually.
From like such a young age. Wow, amazing. Thank you. So you probably answered the first question there as well. So your first yoga class, would you say it was with your grandma? It was with your grandma?
Yeah, definitely.
Oh, wow. Wow.
Yeah. I think a lot of Jain teachings and understanding that
definitely
has been sort of my introduction to yoga. So rather than an asana practice, it's more about kind of food that we eat, things that that you grow up with, that you don't really know where they come from, and then you start to understand it's because of a tradition.
Yes, that's how you were brought up.
Yeah.
Very, very early influences. So 5 years old with grandma, you were having your yoga lessons. Do you remember like going into a studio at an older age? Where did you start to really have a regular practice?
And it's really interesting in that I've forgotten where I started asana practice, and I think probably in Stoke Newington. There was a really nice lady when I was doing quite a busy job with a friend of mine called Eleanor, and we were doing a really busy job, and she and Eleanor would say, no, we need to go and relax, and we'd go and see a lovely lady whose name I can't remember in Stoke Newington, and there were only about 4 or 5 people there ever, but it really helped me to.
How long ago is this? Do you remember roughly?
Oh, more than 20-30 years ago.
Oh, wow. Wow. And that was the start of your consistent practice?
Yeah. So I've been practicing now, I would say 20 years regularly. I mean, on and off.
Your whole life, basically.
Yeah.
Yeah. Wow. Amazing. Thank you so much. So 20-30 year practice. When did you realize you wanted to teach yoga?
I've been a doctor for about I qualified 98, so what's that, 23 years, something like that. Yeah, since through my experience of medicine, I've just realized that medicine and yoga are very, very connected, and I see people every day that I feel would benefit from understanding yoga philosophy, having a practice of yoga, whether it be breath work, meditation, movement.
All 8 limbs.
Yeah. And as and also, you know, medicine, we're always taught to think about why a person has arrived in front of us at a particular time. Why is this person here right now in front of me? What's brought them here? But our tools to understand it are quite clumsy. You know, we're really good at understanding science and prescribing medication, but our tools to understand experience in medicine and integrate that into the whole of someone's life, I think can be clumsy, and yet it's an essential part of our approach to well-being and health. And I think yoga has really taught me to value that experience and understand what's brought a person here and the culmination of so many things, and how you can help people in their journey towards healing. And it's not necessarily through science, it's through being able to listen and clarify and seek their experience. So I've loved that.
Okay. So what was the defining moment that made you then sign up to TT22 back in the day?
I think it was the right time in life. I've got 2 kids. I've been a GP now for a certain number of years. It was just the right time. And that's why it happened at that particular time. And I also really wanted to do Anna and Tony's teaching. I'd looked at it for a few years and I thought I want to be on that training.
Yes, indeed. And that's where we met. So yes.
Yeah, thank goodness I did that training, Yvonne. Otherwise I wouldn't have ever met you.
I know. It was a very special group. So it's nice to know the answer to this question, but I don't know how you're going to pitch it. So the next question is, where, when, and with whom was your first teacher training?
So it was with you. It was
not with me, with Anna Ashby.
You were there.
I was there.
Fellow student, and we started 4 years ago.
I know, coming up. Yeah, October.
And it was with Anna Ashby, the wonderful Anna Ashby, and Tony Watson, and Carlos Pomeda, and Chris Swain. Yeah. And for me, Anna and Tony are amazing. Asana, what they don't know about how the body moves, it is probably not worth knowing. And so
and that's you saying it as a doctor.
Well, they're amazing, and they make you feel and understand so much. I feel as though I learned anatomy at medical school, but applying it, understanding bodies, really came a lot through my yoga teaching training. And then for me, what was revelatory actually was Carlos and the philosophy lessons. And I don't know how you felt about them. We sat in a really cramped studio, and there was how many of us? A tiny studio.
25, 27,
27 of us sitting in a tiny studio on the floor.
For 3 hours. 4 hours.
4 hours, sweltering room, and yet I couldn't get enough of the philosophy. And I remember just something small, like Carlos talking about the Bhagavad Gita, for example, and he's drawn the picture to us, and he's we're at the battle with Arjuna, and he's about to fight his family, and he's going to kill people, and all of us are at this yoga kind of training because we're fairly peaceful and we want to connect with people and we're quite happy. And then Carlos is sitting there going, no, but how did Krishna and Carlos turn this round? How did they make us understand what was going on in Arjuna's mind? And I just love that debate and that understanding of what it meant in yoga philosophy about duty and attachment. you know, we would debate these things all the time, and I love the way that Carlos managed to get us all to talk about our own experience of it, and
Yeah.
really relate it to what's happening in our lives currently. And I love asana. I love yoga. You know, in terms of movement, it keeps me coming back to the mat. But
You're glowing as you say it.
yeah,
Yeah.
just but I really, and I think probably as someone who'd been brought up with the culture of yoga in my background, and as a young age, I was blown away by the wealth of knowledge Carlos had.
Yes. Yeah.
And you know, it wasn't it wasn't something you could learn. It was something that he'd experienced
I was
over
about to say, it was
years and
really
years of
deep
living,
experience.
and being in India, and living with in a monastery.
Absolutely.
So yeah,
Yeah.
I loved it.
No, it's pretty special, right? Pretty
Yeah.
special. So let's see your recollection, because this is a question I ask everybody after the teacher training question. Can you remember how many people of colour were on the training?
Oh my goodness. So there's you and me. there was Kenny, Chang, Anissa.
Yeah.
Oh God, I don't want to forget anyone.
Sue.
Who?
Sue. You've forgotten Sue.
Sue, did she start and then?
No, she was there. Have I got her name wrong? It'll come back to me. So let's see. I know her as Sue. Maybe you knew her as another name. Oh, she did have a double name. It'll come to me. And there was one more that's just gone out of my head. I counted 7 when it was my interview. I got to 7, and I think that's the highest we've had in all of the interviews. We'll have to debate on the last 2, but yeah, definitely a higher proportion of the interviews.
Well, that's good. That's good, isn't it? It's
yeah. And just to share, actually, I put in my interview, I do remember, as well as us being, you know, a nice diverse mix, we were actually older than some of the other teacher trainings. And not that there's anything wrong with younger teacher training, but I don't know about you, I think I noticed that there were a good portion of us that were older than the average.
Well, I really enjoyed that. You know, that brought real depth to conversations on philosophy, and it wasn't just about being bendy. And
somebody had asked why. I think somebody said, oh yeah, Amanda, who was interviewing me, asked why. And I said, oh, I don't know. And then Anna has kindly, she's answered it in the comments on YouTube to say really? Her and Tony made a conscious decision to have like an older cohort if people had decided to, you know, change career at the later life or deepen their study at a later life. So I thought it was quite nice that I got some insight that I had no idea about until like it was Yoga Journeys. So that's that.
Cool. I want to ask you your yoga journey now. Like, I feel as though I want to talk to you about.
No, it's yours.
No, okay.
It's yours. Right. It's yours. You can ask me at the end. It's all about you, Sonali. So thank you so much for sharing. We're now moving on to the highs and lows of the wellness industry. What comes to mind for you? When I ask you about the highs and lows, I always invite you to share any lows first and then end on any highs. And it's, you know, personal to you, whether there are some or not. It's what may or may not come to mind.
Yeah, the wellness industry. The industry. Why is being well an industry?
An industry. There is a question. There is a question.
For me, that's, you know, why have we turned being well into a commodity? And I find that really, really difficult. And is it only for people who can pay for something, or is it?
Yeah.
You know, how not one thing is a panacea. Being well is about life. Yeah. It's about how you eat, it's about how you move, it's about how you breathe, it's about your how well you're connected. It's about how well you're connected to the earth. It's everything.
Yes.
And to the wellness industry is a bit like the health industry. It's very reductionist, and it's a multi-billion-pound industry. God, have I said enough about the lows? It's terrible. I'm sorry. Okay. I could write.
No, there is no apologies required. This is your journey, right? No apologies required. Do you have a high?
Well, I love that people are beginning to understand that actually your health and your well-being is an individual thing which you can look after, which you have the ability to really inform and nurture, and you can do that without lots of money. Just having an understanding of what can bring you joy and health. So I think that although there's an explosion of choices which can sometimes be confusing, I think that people are really beginning to understand how to look after their health. And science has got involved in that as well, which is really good. We need both. We need experience and we need science to tell us, further our understanding.
Excellent. Lovely. Thank you. Do you have one ask of the wellness industry?
Do I have one ask? Stop selling stuff. I don't know. That's really big.
It's big. It's a bit. Yeah, it's a big one. You can come back to it at the end, because I always give you a little roundup at the end if there's anything you want to revisit, anything you've forgotten to say, so you can save it to the end.
Yeah, I guess it's something about nurturing connection, and how you can do that through the wellness industry. So, for example, I love this. It's a really simple medium, isn't it? It's a lovely way to connect with, and it doesn't require money or effort. Maybe it does. Maybe it requires more yoga to be really generous.
Yeah, but I see what you mean.
Yeah.
Lovely. So when I started this series, we'd only had the one lockdown, March last year. Clearly now we've had 3. So what has got you through the lockdowns, and have they been different for you? And clearly, you are a GP, so you not only experienced it from the being an adult individual, you had this other hat to wear as a GP. So I suppose it's a very big question. What was lockdown like for you? How did you get through each of them?
Yeah, it's a big question. So lockdown was really busy. I had a lockdown. Lockdowns have been unequal, I think, for everyone in terms of your ability to connect and your ability to go out in where you live in so many ways. I think that everyone has had such a different lockdown, and some people have had so much isolation, and so my lockdown has been pretty busy, but busy in a really good way in many respects. So I had the ability to hear people's stories, patients who were going through COVID, and talk to them and understand what it was like for them, and that's a privilege in itself. I had the understanding of what was happening in hospitals, talking to colleagues and speaking to them as patients, how traumatic it was, and how emotionally draining and physically draining it was for so many of the people that worked on ITU. I was able to talk to relatives, and we do this, you know, this is our lives on a daily basis, but there was so much uncertainty. And then we had to change our practice policy every week, more than every week, just depending on what the government asked us to do next. And it was continuously changing, and there was lots of uncertainties for staff.
Right.
And we had to try and bridge that. But what got me through lockdown were how amazing all our staff were, and how they really wanted to pull together. And then there was Breathe.
Yes, indeed. So proud of you. Tell everybody about Breathe.
I think it just really came about because Chang, who you know, who's a fellow GP, and I were both experiencing and understanding some of the trauma that the NHS workers were going through right at the beginning of the lockdown. And we just wanted to offer something that we felt would be helpful. You know, we envisaged people just taking 10 minutes out to breathe, and knowing how powerful that can be in terms of calming your mind, and being able to make good decisions. And we know physiologically that it's really helpful. And so we set up Zoom sessions, initially for NHS health workers, and then open to everyone. We had surgeries and people tuning in from all around the country, which was really nice. But then it became quite a small group of people that would tune in. It was last Friday that was our last session, and we held it daily, 2 or 3 times a day.
All that time, it's over a year. It's like 15 months practically, isn't it? That's pretty amazing, Sonali. Pretty amazing.
Well, it was just all the teachers. It was the teachers that got involved. I want to mention each of them, you know, Charlotte, Lola, Chang, of course, Joanna, Kenny, Penny at times, you, Anna, Vicky, and Mornay, yeah. And they took all them and get and then we can all that came, and that was really so I think it was helpful for us as teachers to turn up every day. Charlotte said something so beautiful during her last session, that she just said it was really nice to have a reason to get up every day during lockdown.
Wonderful.
And she was giving so much, and I think it just provided that sense of connection, and really helped us to remember what to do. So yes, Breathe really helped me.
Whose was the last session on the Friday?
It was Kenny. It was Kenny on a Friday night, and I don't know. Yeah, I have to talk to him and see how it went. It went to everybody's, and I missed Kenny's, and I feel very sad about that.
I think you were doing vaccination clinic, weren't you? Yeah, there you go. So no apologies required, right? No apologies required. But no, well done for, you know, thinking of others during that time. It was pretty special, because I remember when you asked me, it was like, wow, this is amazing. So yeah, well done you. And it was, you know, studio life why I wasn't able to keep it going. But yeah, thank you. So can you cast your mind back to the unfortunate killing of George Floyd? Now, whilst I appreciate it was the Black Lives Matter protest that, you know, made many studios feel a level of discomfort and realize that they needed to start diversifying, can you recall one, like any increase in followers on Instagram? And I know it's not your favorite thing in the world, but did you notice anything? And also, did any studios approach you?
No studios approached me, and I think because you tagged me as someone of color, I think I had a few more people following me. But I'm really, you know how terrible I am at social media.
It's okay. You're brilliant at lots of other things. Yeah, there were quite a few lists that started being created of, yoga teachers of color to follow. Yeah. And I think when that started going around, that generated like more followers and connections. Because yeah. But I just wondered if you had noticed anything or had any approaches.
No, I didn't.
No worries. So now we get to the point where you let us know if there's anything coming up that you want to promote, any workshops, any classes, where do you teach regularly? And I know that's probably difficult at the minute being a GP, but
I've started to teach regularly.
Oh, excellent.
In person, which is great. Little Chalfont on a Friday morning at 9:30.
9:30, excellent. Where is that? Where can we find you?
It's the Methodist Church in Little Chalfont, but if you look on my website, it tells you Slow Yoga.
SLOWE. Slow with an E.
Yeah. But the thing that I'm really excited about that happens on a Friday and just after the yoga class, and I hope lots of people will turn up, is I'm doing a half-hour breathe session. And
great.
It's just, you pay anything that you can if you can, and I'm hoping that people will turn up to that, because there was a podcast that I was listening to the other day which really encapsulated how I feel about breathing sometimes, and I can't remember the name of the neurosurgeon, but there was a neurosurgeon who he was saying that he really values breathing and being able to control the breath, and how he understands physiologically when his breath is fast, then he's releasing lots of hormones that mean he's not able to make the correct decisions. And it's why we practice restorative yoga as well in many respects. And actually he needed to train his breathing in order to make really good decisions during a really special operation. 6-7 hours of operating during neurosurgery. And he said that as a trainee neurosurgeon, they all wear masks, and we're all used to it. When you wear masks and you're breathing really fast, glasses or anything steams, and they all have to wear glasses in order to see the microanatomy. And he said that as a trainee neurosurgeon, you have to tape up your mask in order to stop the breath steaming up the glasses. And he said most neurosurgeons still do that, but what he's managed to do is he uses his breath as an indicator of understanding when he's breathing too fast. And he knows that if he's breathing too fast and his glasses are steaming up, then actually his decisions are not going to be the correct decisions during operating.
Amazing.
And yeah, I love that. I can't remember his name.
It will come to you. You can add it into the comments when it goes up on YouTube. You can add it into the comments so people know what it is.
Yeah.
No, that's great. It sounds great. That'd be wonderful. And will you do it Zoom as well, or just in person?
It would just be in person. Yeah, there's no internet in Little Chalfont.
Okay. Alrighty. Anything else? Any workshops coming up? No, not yet.
Nothing planned.
Okay.
They will happen.
Friday mornings, Little Chalfont Methodist Church, 9:30, slow yoga.
Yes.
And then before we open the floor, see if there are any questions. Any final thoughts, anything you want to come back to, the one ask of the wellness industry, or anything else that you would like to share that you might have forgotten?
No, I just want to thank you for always being joyful and connecting people and being so positive. It's lovely. So
You're very welcome.
thank you.
You're very welcome. And equally, thank you for always being so supportive and patient and very helpful back in the day. Wasn't ever the greatest student, but you know, we helped each other. So if you would like to ask Sonali a question, you're welcome to come off mute. If I need to take you off mute, so you can come off mute, because I will change it now, and ask her a question, or you can type it into the chat box if you prefer, and Sonali will answer. No pressure, you don't have to ask a question, but as you're here, if there's anything that you would like to ask her, otherwise we will thank you so much for joining. Drum roll. No, it's fine, no pressure. It's
no.
nice. Oh, hello.
Oh, hi. No comments, no questions, sorry, but just to say that it's been really interesting, and thank you so much for sharing. My first one joining, I thought, oh, baby's asleep, I'll quickly jump on, but it's been really, really nice to hear, well, both of you, but yeah, thank you.
Oh, it's lovely that you're here, Ethne. Thank you.
Thank you. You can catch up on loads of them. They're all on More Yoga YouTube. So all the interviews with all the yogis of color, they're all there.
Amazing.
So when you have time, you can work your way through and see all the different answers. Thank you so much for joining.
Thank you.
So thanks once again for joining and sharing your journey, Sonali. Yes, we're coming to the end of this series, and I'm discreetly, well, not discreetly, I'm looking in my phone because I forgot to check who's up next. I'm not going to guess, I'm going to check so I get the name right. So these are every fortnight. Last few are coming up. Next one is on July the 12th, and it is Valentina Musifranska. I will double check the pronunciation of her name when I meet her. Lovely More Yoga teacher that I've got to know recently, so it's Valentina. So that'll be on the 12th of July. So I hope you can join us then. But once again, thank you so much, Sonali. It's been an absolute pleasure to hear your journey, TT22 family. Have a lovely, lovely evening. Thank you so much for joining, everyone. Take care. Bye-bye.